Suddenly, the street split open as a massive crack tore through the ground. From the depths below, a gigantic creature emerged, its size crushing everything in its path. Workers who happened to be nearby had no time to react, becoming the first sacrifices. Their screams were cut short, their bodies tossed aside like rag dolls. As the horrifying beast made its appearance, those nearby fled in terror, only to discover that more creatures were lurking in the streets, waiting to feast. The creatures spared no one, showing no mercy. They roared, filling the streets with chaos, their monstrous figures casting shadows over the panicked citizens. Even those standing on London Bridge found no safety as the creatures began their assault on the city. The unmistakable sign of the Baron's success, summoning the royal army of monsters, was evident. The Blood Queen's plan was coming to fruition. Earlier, the Blood Queen had unleashed a deadly plague, which spread rapidly, turning the world into a nightmare. The disease caused widespread destruction, ravaging everything it touched. And now it was a global threat. Amid this chaos, the professor frantically searched for the Blood Queen, unaware that she was already hunting him. A cashier, startled by her presence, tried to maintain some semblance of composure as the Blood Queen approached. "I need to see some ID, love," she said, attempting to keep calm. But it was clear she could never match the Blood Queen's terrifying power. In response, the Defense Bureau was quickly established to combat the monstrous threats. When the three barons learned of the rising danger, they hurried back to see what they could do. However, by the time they arrived, the Defense Bureau had descended into madness. The professor had been kidnapped by the Blood Queen, and all hope seemed lost. Television news reports indicated that the Blood Queen had taken refuge in a church, prompting the barons to rush to the location. When they arrived, they were greeted by a horrific sight: countless monsters hovering above the church, as though celebrating their victory. Despite the odds, the three barons marched into the church, ready to face whatever awaited them. Inside, they encountered a monstrous figure, twice the size and strength of anything they had faced before. With a single punch, the creature sent one baron crashing into a stone pillar. The baron fought back, wielding iron tools and attempting to subdue the beast. But the wild boss spirit had grown indistinct, its power no longer enough to overpower the creature. The two monsters exchanged blows, each strike seeming to match the other. The wild boss spirit used its sharp tusks, aiming to pierce the baron's abdomen. But the baron fought back, breaking off a tusk and stabbing it into the creature's eye. The battle raged on, with neither side gaining the upper hand. As the monsters continued their fight, one of the barons rapidly mutated, his lens transforming into sharp, deadly cores. His new form displayed incredible strength, and he pounced on the wild boss spirit, leaving bloody scratches in his wake. The Baron focused on the mutated creature, realizing that defeating it was now the priority. As the battle raged, the wild boss began to gain the upper hand, though the two monsters were far from finished. Just as the wild boss was about to finish off one of the barons, the Blood Queen intervened. Her impatience was evident as the wild boss's usefulness had worn off. She had used him for her own purposes, and now, with the apocalypse drawing closer, it was time to move forward with her plan. The Baron, realizing the Blood Queen's intentions, was sent to the church's underground tomb of King Arthur, an ancestor of the South Duke, where the king's holy sword lay. The Blood Queen encouraged him to draw the sword, warning that doing so would trigger the apocalypse. But the rational Baron, knowing the risks, refused to play into her hands. Frustrated, the Blood Queen resorted to more violent methods, forcing the Baron's hand. Desperate to save the professor, who was still in her grasp, the Baron begged for mercy. But the Blood Queen had no mercy to offer. Without warning, she sent him to the afterlife, leaving the Baron consumed by madness. Vowing revenge, the Baron grasped the holy sword. As soon as he drew the blade, King Arthur's remains ignited in flames, triggering an awakening in the Baron. His demonic power surged, and his feet regrew. A dazzling, flaming crown appeared on his head, and he became a terrifying, unstoppable force, resembling the King of Hell descending to Earth. The apocalypse soon followed. Demons flooded the streets, ignoring the screams of humanity as they tore the city apart. The world was on the brink of annihilation, fulfilling the Blood Queen's twisted plan. But as the Baron's power grew, so did his awareness of the Blood Queen's manipulation. A devised plan began to take shape. If the Baron allowed the Blood Queen